Okay, welcome back. We're going to look at equations with variables on each side, and we're going to look at some examples that involve integers. And obviously everything's not always that nice, but we'll look at some that they are pretty straightforward like that. So we're going to look at two different examples. Here's our first example. We've got AA equals 5A plus 21. So we set up our fence, and then the first thing we do is we look at it and we say, okay, I've got variables over here and here on opposite sides of the fence, all right? So it's like you got cows on both sides of the fence, right? So we want to move the cows over to one side of the fence and have chickens on the other side of the fence. So would it make more sense to move, the cows over here and then pick the chickens up and move them over there? Well, think about it. That requires 2 steps in order to do that. Whereas if we decided to say, okay, we're going to take this 5A and we're going to move it over here, then you wind up with your variables over here, and then you wind up with, your A's over here, and then you wind up with your numbers over here. That's what you want. You want to be able to do this in the least amount of work as possible, just because, what's the point of making everything so difficult all the time? So let's set this up. Again, I'm going to change back to my color. All right, so we are going to start by moving this term over to the other side. So we got to do the opposite. It's positive right now. We're going to subtract it. And whatever you do to one side, what we did here, we got to do to the other side, so we got to do over there. So 5A minus 5A gives us 0, obviously. Then you bring your 21 down, and that's what's left over here. And then 8A minus 5A. Remember, when you're doing these problems, you just deal with the coefficients. So you go 8 minus 5 is 3. Then you tack your A on, and you got 3A equals 21. This now becomes a problem that you know how to solve. We know that 3 is multiplying by A, so we are going to do the opposite of that and divide both sides by 3. That will cancel there, and you will get A is equal to 7. Okay, let's look at another example. All right, got 3x minus 7 equals 8x plus 23. All right, so in this situation, we've got a case, and I'm going to color code this. We've got a case where we've got a variable here, and we've got a variable here. And then we have a number here, and we have a number here. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to decide which side would it make the most sense. I'm going to put my fence up so I can start planning this out. Which side would it make the most sense to move my variables to? Well, I have 8 here, and I have 3 here. And so the easiest way to figure this out is to say, well, there's more of them over here, right? I've got 8 over here, I've got 3. 8 is clearly more than 3. So it would make more sense to move this 3 over to the other side. So let's start by doing that. So we're going to subtract 3x from both sides, okay? And then when we do that, that is going to give us, I'm going to try and color code this. That is going to give us 5x here. And then we have 5x plus 23. You bring down the stuff even if you didn't do anything with it. And then they cancel here, and you're left with negative 7. Now this is starting to look a little more manageable. All right, and we're going to deal with our numbers here. Well, we've already got the variables on one side, so we're going to leave, this is just going to stay put right here. But we're going to take this and we're going to move it over to the other side, right? Oops, that's kind of crazy what happened there. All right, we're going to take that and it's going to go over to the other side. So the way we do that is we subtract it. We're going to subtract 23 from both sides. And so this is where obviously you really need to know how to deal with your integers, right? The 5x comes down. Your positive 23 and your negative 23 are inverses of each other, so they cancel. And then you have negative 7 plus negative 23. Now remember, when you have two numbers and they have the same sign, you add them up and keep the sign. So you have negative 30 equals 5x. So at this point, this is more of a common problem. I know that 5 is multiplying by x, so we're going to divide both sides by 5. And then that's going to give me x is equal to negative 6. And then what I can do is I can take that negative 6 and I can plug it in for x. And let's just do that really quick. So on this left side here, I will get negative 3 times, or sorry, I wrote that wrong. I got excited about the negative. You get 3 times negative 6 minus 7 is equal to 8 times negative 6 plus 23. Well, if we simplify those, we get negative 18 minus 7, which equals negative 25 on this side. And then on this side, you get negative 48 plus 23, which is also negative 25. So you get the same thing on both sides. That's an equality or an identity, and that's what we want. So x equals negative 6, and this is our final answer.